Live from a bunker in the heart of the Ozarks, a podcast that always respects the cuticle. It's Sif Pop. Welcome to Sif Pop Weekly, streaming live most Fridays, are available to download later in your podcast feed, unless, of course, you're a patron.
Patrons get perks.
Patrons get those perks.
Woo!
I'm your host, Aaron Dicer, and he brought a vanilla candle because it's a game changer. It's Andrew Ormsby, ladies and gentlemen.
I've got to get rid of that Amazon subscription. Ahoy!
And each week we will chat about movies, TV, and whatever else from the pop culture universe is on our minds. And please welcome our guest this week. We warned him if he came on the podcast, it might change his entire life. It's Dom Fisher.
Hey. I left the ghost downstairs, you know. He told me he got to chill out.
Dom, good to have you back, man. Excited to talk a couple movies with you and you as well, Andrew. We are going to chat about Haunted Mansion, which is in theaters, and They Cloned Tyrone, which came out on Netflix. And then we'll do a little bit of a best ever challenge on haunted house movies that have a haunted house in them. And, of course, we'll do some buried treasure as well. No reason to wait other than to just briefly say all of us have had our Summer Sum Games picks absolutely destroyed by a little pink doll who is going to be the number one movie of the summer. So with that in mind, you can check out your scores for the Summer Sum Game at sifpop.com. Just click on Summer Sum Game scores, and you can be depressed with the rest of us. And with Barbie,
I'm in last place.
Apparently. Yeah, you might still be near last place, at least. All right, now we can get into it. Let's chat a little bit about Haunted Mansion. A woman and her son enlist a motley crew of so-called spiritual experts to help her rid their home of supernatural squatters. It's, of course, based on the Disney ride, because it's not enough for Disney to make live-action remakes of their animated movies. They also want to make remakes of their rides. It's also not the first time they've done this. This is their second attempt at making a Haunted Mansion movie, the first one with great Eddie Murphy. If you remember that one from back in the day. This one stars Lakeith Stanfield, Tiffany Haddish, Owen Wilson, Jamie Lee Curtis, Danny DeVito, and Jared Leto. What did you guys think? Did you like it, love it, dislike it, hate it, or it was just okay? Andrew, you first.
It was just okay.
It was okay. Dom, what do you think?
I'm on the low side of like.
Low side of liked it. I as well. Dom, am going to join you on the low side of liked it. I actually enjoyed this movie. Tell me some of the things you liked about it, Dom.
I think for one, I'm always gonna be a little biased when there's something that involves Lakeith Stanfield. He's one of my favorites. But I think the main thing for me was this kind of felt like it took you back a little bit to what movies for families or kids were kind of were. They were a little more put together, a little more adult, I guess, if you will, because this dealt a lot with grief. And we don't really see that with family movies anymore. It kind of skirts around things or has to have some kind of giant metaphor. And this one was very straightforward with this person is sad, doesn't know how to deal with these emotions, and then we see how it plays out.
There's also a little bit of goofiness to it that kind of feels a little old school too,
Yeah.
which I think may determine how much you enjoy it or not. You know, because I know that for some people, especially the modern aesthetic, really leans toward authenticity. What's interesting to me is you bring up Lakeith Stanfield, and I think he's the best part of the movie. I think
Yeah.
he's giving an incredible performance in this. And I think what his performance does is it shows that authenticity doesn't have to be mutually exclusive from goofiness. This movie can be goofy and still hit you with some feels and some authenticity as well. Now, I don't know that all of it works, but I know most of the Lakeith stuff does.
Yeah.
And I think it's just because he is really connecting to this performance in, I think, a really beautiful and interesting way. So I think he does amazing stuff here.
Yeah, and it definitely for me, the part of it hits home a little harder for me because we kind of have this kind of stepfather role thing that kind of comes into play.
Mm-hmm.
I had my stepson with me during the screening, and while our connection didn't start the same or by any means, but it is kind of good to see that because this is it happens in real life. We do have unconventional families come together, and it was really cool to see that.
One of the other things I really liked was Chase Dillon, who plays Travis, the kid. I think he does a really good job here. I think he delivers some of the funniest moments of the movie, some of his lines. We mentioned the candle line about, that's going to be a game changer. And the way he delivers, is it though? It's one of the best parts of the movie. And there are those moments where I'm just like, oh, good, because a lot of times the kid can be kind of the fly in the ointment sometimes because you never know what you're going to get. But I feel like Chase really kind of brings it here and does a good job. What do you think about his performance?
Yeah, I thought he was great. I thought kids don't always get represented in the best way, like how kids actually are. And the fact that he doesn't really fit in, but it's not for the typical reasons. It's that he's an overachiever. He wants everyone to like him. And there's a lot of that where you're like, I just want people to like me. But sometimes that pick me is a turn off to people. But that reassurance that no, be you're a great person. And those who flock to you, those are the ones you want around you.
I also felt like the movie did a pretty good job with finding effects that felt tone appropriate.
Yeah.
So like the effects in this are also a little bit goofy. I don't think they're meant to be, totally realistic or totally scare us in any kind of big way, but they are their own thing. So they don't feel out of place in the movie at all.
Yeah, it's definitely if you're really young, you go, oh, it's scary, but it's not that scar you scary. It's not, oh my God, I'm gonna have nightmares for a week. It's that's kind of creepy, and then you look at it and you go, oh, it's not that creepy.
Yeah. What about you, Andrew? What are some of your thoughts on the movie?
Well, I was surprised by the emotional impacts that this movie had on me. For instance, this movie deals with obviously it deals with death, but it also deals with moving on from death and accepting loss and grieving. The mourning process in general is very prevalent in this film, and I think it's handled very maturely, especially for a Disney movie that I think is primarily targeted for kids. So I don't know if it's a true pro, because I don't know if it's too heavy for some of the younger audience to understand, but definitely the parents that go will get a reality check.
Yeah, I think that's true. I didn't mention Dan Levy, Rosario Dawson, Winona Ryder also showing up in this movie. I love that they have these little moments. It's interesting with Winona Ryder being in kind of a haunted movie and also in Stranger Things. She kind of carries that baggage with her now, which I find interesting. One of the things I wanted to talk about, and this will have a different amount of impact on different people. I think your level of familiarity with the original ride will impact how much you like this movie. I found myself enjoying this movie more because of all the little winks and nods to the original ride. The other Haunted Mansion movie, the Eddie Murphy one, doesn't do that as well. There are a couple things, but this one has a bunch. It's got the entire room you stand in at the beginning. Is this room actually stretching? Like, it's got that whole thing. All those paintings are the same from the actual ride. A lot of the tombstones that this shows are from the actual ride, and the movie actually gives a reason why they're funny, which I found interesting as well. The set design is so much like the stuff you see when you're taking the ride, whether it be from the way the ghosts are interacting within the dining room, whether it be the Madame Leota stuff or the floating stuff. Like, it all just feels like stuff that's directly from the original Haunted Mansion ride. And I have such memories ingrained in me from childhood of, going on that ride so many times that I couldn't help but smile and like that stuff. Did you guys notice any of that stuff? Are you all that familiar with the ride at Disney World and Disneyland?
Never ridden it.
Me neither.
Wow. Interesting. Okay. All right. That blows my mind a little bit, but
I did hear that.
Can't go to Disneyland on a whim, Eric. That's so many states away.
It's true. It is true. It's a few states away. That's true. What were you saying, Dom?
Oh no, but I was just gonna echo what you said. I had seen online that people were saying the same thing, that it's just like the ride, and I was like, oh, that makes me kind of want to go on that ride now. I'm curious to see what it's like, but
me too, actually.
The Disneys are expensive, so if they want to,
they are.
They want to throw your boy a bone.
Do you get to ride a chair like they do?
We'll do a Sif Pop Disney broadcast or something. Have everybody go down. Yeah.
I'm not saying no.
What else? What else do you guys want to talk about? Good or bad? What are some more of your thoughts on this movie?
I enjoyed Tiffany Haddish.
Yeah,
she's always been somebody I thought was funny, whether people like her or not. She is, and I think what makes her funny to me and a lot of other people who find her funny is that she reminds you of somebody that you know. Now that could go against her or for her, depending on the movie, but just like her always kind of adding something to the very background that's kind of indistinct, you almost can't hear it, but it's just that extra, like, nah, you ain't gonna do that to me, or just those little things. Like, that's what kind of pushes some of these scenes over the top for me. And she just, I think, naturally is a goofy person, naturally can be over the top and make it feel natural. And I feel like that's exactly what her character was kind of it's kind of like watching almost like watching a drag show. It was like, this is my character and I'm gonna turn it up to 10.
Yeah,
I see that.
Makes sense. Andrew, some thoughts?
I love the costume design and the set design. The set design, I felt like I know the house changes, it physically changes, but I felt like I had a pretty good idea of like where everything was laid out. So the movie did a good enough job explaining initially the layout of this house so I could follow everything. Granted, like we said, hallways stretch and they warp and stuff like that. But for the most part, it was very well shot movie.
Cool. We've only said positive things. Does anybody have anything negative to say about Haunted Mansion?
Danny DeVito felt like he was just thrown in there. Like, yeah. It sounds weird because he is so much of a Frank Reynolds in this movie that I don't know. It's just like everybody felt like they had a really, well thought out character, but Danny DeVito was thrown in, kind of. Which he got laughs. Don't get me wrong. It's just it felt like he was an unfinished character.
Yeah, he didn't feel like the same amount of the team as everybody else did. Like, he felt like a periphery to that, and that's okay. The movie can do that, but it was weird that the movie didn't feel like it really gave a reason for it. Like we don't have a reason to understand why he's periphery other than a little bit of, oh, that guy's nuts, kind of
old.
eye rolls. Yeah, he's old and crazy. And that's not enough reason. That's a reason he should be more on the team for the audience, right? We want him more on the team for the audience because of that. So yeah, that I agree. That was a little interesting. Any other negatives?
Yeah, because this movie starts off with the worst pickup line of all time.
Which was,
"Do you want my drink?" Never in the history of the world has a man walked up to a woman and she's tried to order drink and gone, and the dude says, "Here, you can have mine," and that work out okay.
Yeah, I genuinely was waiting for her to say something. Like when she said, "How about we share it?" I thought she was going to follow that up with, "And you go first." Like,
Yeah.
like there's like, yeah, there was a little bit of obliviousness to what a terrible situation
you have to look
that
like
is.
Keith Stanfield to get away with that.
Possibly. Yeah.
And I wish they
Handsome
would
man.
have. I wish they would have kind of. We could have saw more of the science aspect of his character to kind of make us really feel like, oh, like he's that guy, but we didn't fully get it. We just heard him spout off some lingo, some terms, talk about some formulas, and then it was like, oh, he's a genius, I guess. And then
it was really weird because I thought we were setting up a Mulder Scully kind of thing with a believer and a non-believer, and the movie doesn't go there at all. Like, it just doesn't have time for that. And like the idea that his science would be in opposition to paranormal sciences is never even explored. Right. It seemed weird to me not to address that at all. So I totally agree with that. That was a very strange part of the movie for me.
Yeah. I also think that we could have got more of Lakeith's character Ben with his wife, just to really, build up the emotions between, the love between those two characters.
Yeah. I also felt like this movie was pretty transparent as far as where the plot was going and what was going to happen.
You mean translucent?
I feel like it was one of those things where the setups and payoffs weren't terrible. They were just obvious to me, and so that kind of ran against it a little bit for me. But other than that, I really enjoyed it. What else do you guys have to say? Any other things before we move on?
Oh, I do. I think one of the best things of the film was they didn't lean into as much as I thought, but I do love that the rhythm and soul of New Orleans was kind of more alive in this one. Sure. Get the shots of like the short lines walking down the street, and if you didn't know, if you can go to New Orleans, you can get your own parade any random day. If you go to the police station, pay like $200. But the music, the kind of the wardrobe, it was cool to see that the first film didn't really do it all.
I didn't sing a single fleur de lis. I don't know if that was really New Orleans or not.
Not a single beignet. What's going on?
Not a single alligator on a stick. What's going on here?
Yeah. Any final thoughts, Andrew?
No post-credit scene.
That is true. My only final thoughts are that Jamie Lee Curtis can do no wrong. She was given barely anything to do in this movie and still somehow stole my heart. So love you, Jamie Lee. All right, let's move on to our next review out on Netflix. Let's talk a little bit about They Cloned Tyrone. A series of eerie events thrust an unlikely trio onto the trail of a nefarious government conspiracy lurking directly beneath their neighborhood. Jamie Foxx and John Boyega and Teyonah Parris all coming together to be the main stars of this. Kiefer Sutherland also appearing in there as well. What did you guys think of They Cloned Tyrone? Dom, why don't you kick us off?
I love this one.
Loved it.
Yeah, this has climbed to my top 10, maybe closer to my top 5.
Nice. Andrew, did you like it, love it, dislike it, hate it, or it was just okay?
I really liked it. I can't commit to love because I have some issues with it, but I will say that I really like this movie.
Andrew, I am joining you on the high side of liked it. Couldn't quite find my way into loved it, but really did enjoy this movie. So Dom, you liked it the most. So talk a little bit. What are some of the things you love about They Clone Tyrone?
So the biggest thing for me is that this film, it really leans into this conspiracy theory that's always kind of been lingering within the Black community that oftentimes isn't quite conspiracy, because we have heard of like things like the Tuskegee Project and all sorts of things like this, and the fact that it flips some of these stereotypes. It does give a message to people that like, hey, don't be that stereotype as well. You know, if you are like leaning into the dope boy life or the pimp life or the pro life, like it's telling you like you're feeding into what they want you to do to continue to destroy your neighborhood. I really love the kind of Scooby-Doo, Nancy Drew aspect of it. Jamie Foxx, I'm glad that he's been able to like be fully himself in some of his newer, more recent roles. Like the lingo and the way he delivers his lines is some of the best that like in the film. Like I love John Boyega. I think he fully committed to this role, did great. But Jamie Foxx with just these one-liners were hilarious. And then Tiana Paris is like really impressed me in everything I continue to see her in. But yeah, I mean, this is a movie I watched back to back. Then I watched it with my wife. Like I think there's something to it too. Also, that a lot of films that are Black-led films, it almost feels like the dialogue feels foreign, and in this one, it felt more authentic. It felt more natural. It didn't seem like people were scared to say things the way that they're said in the community. So there was a level of authenticity that really let it shine through for me.
Nice. Andrew, some thoughts?
This movie's directed by Jewel Taylor. Is that how you say their name? Jewel?
I think so.
Okay. You could have told me this movie was directed by Nicholas Winding Refn for all the neon lighting that was around everywhere. I will say this. The first 15 minutes of this movie, I can't remember being so captivated by the first 15 minutes of a movie in a long time. Like, going all the way up to right after we meet Jamie Foxx's character in the motel, and then what happens in the parking lot. That whole sequence, primo. I mean, that is some top tier directing right there. That was intense. It was suspenseful. Like, I was white knuckling my chair watching that whole sequence, because there's a sequence where John Boyega is just sitting in his car looking in the rear view mirror, and it goes on for like 30 seconds. And the entire time I'm just like, I don't know what's going to happen. Something insane is about to happen, and I don't know if I'm ready for it. And I wasn't. I'll just say that. So this movie definitely knows how to build tension, and it knows how to grab you immediately right from the start too.
Yeah, I right from the beginning really fell in love with the aesthetic of what they were trying to do here, and as it revealed itself further, it impressed me more and more, because this is a really deep, introspective, and interesting movie the more you think about it. And it takes the entire aesthetic of the blaxploitation era, makes that primary. This feels even like it could be like from the blaxploitation era. But not only does it use that aesthetic, it then comments on that aesthetic and says, okay, there's almost a purpose here of what's being done to us and how we speak and what our roles are and who does that serve. And, the idea of racial cloning is really interesting in the perspective of this movie, thinking about the metaphor for itself. What does this movie have to say about these kind of stereotypes or these kind of people? What have movies in the past had to say about these kind of stereotypes or the Black community? So it's one of those really interesting movies that finds a way to comment on itself and also be an interesting plot and story even beyond all that. So I really found all of that impressive. That's why I like this movie the most, is just I think it's saying something really interesting and deep. I'm not sure I'm even chewing on all of it. It is certainly a movie that I have a lot more to think about, and also a little bit of a barrier to entry, just because I'm not in the Black community. It is not a place that I live, a place that I often exist. And so a lot of those jokes seem really, really funny, but also they make me nervous. They make me anxious. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, is it okay for me to laugh at this?
Right, right.
All that stuff is happening during this movie. And I give the movie a lot of respect for being bold like that and being willing to go there. Does that make sense? Did what I say make sense?
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's what that Taylor was able to do. He was able to kind of say, this movie is going to be unapologetically Black, but it's also an open door to say, hey, come and kind of look and see how you see us and also how we see ourselves.
Mm-hmm,
because there's certain things where you go, hey, this is bad. And then we go, hey, we know it's bad. We don't know why this is taking place, or this is this person, or they're set up for this life because of the situation they grew up in, or
right.
cloning possibly.
Well, the cloning it seems to be representation of a cycle, right? Like the cycle that you just can't get, the poverty cycle, whatever that cycle is, that it's so hard to escape. That's what the cloning seems to represent. Yeah, if I'm picking up on it correctly.
Yeah, and I think there's a line that it really like stuck with me, and it's the assimilation is better than annihilation, because when you especially if you grow up in an area like that, that it kind of, once you put a tie on or you go to get this corporate job or something, you get called a sellout, and then you kind of have this like conflicted feeling of, do I try to better myself, or am I supposed to stay, grounded or real to where I grew up, when we know like it's not great here. There's people dying and all these drugs and things like that. But it is a cycle that is like, well, if it's a food desert and all we have these certain types of foods to eat, we're not being healthy. How do we get money if the jobs are not in our area? So it's a lot of like commentary that is done in a way that is easier to talk about through the film than it would be to have an open conversation with some strangers.
Sure. More thoughts. Andrew, you haven't talked in a while.
I cannot believe how quickly Teyonah Parris has taken over my entertainment. Like, every single time I see her in something, I'm like, you're amazing. You need to be in everything. And I can't wait to see her in the Marvels. She's gonna kill it, as she has been killing it as Monica Rambeau. But no, her character, I think, is my favorite character in this entire movie. Each character is very much their own distinctive persona. Like, you have the timid pimp in Jamie Foxx, or the cold-bloodedness of John Boyega. But I think that Teyonah Parris is Teyonah. I'm so sorry if I'm butchering her name. Teyonah. Okay. Her character is, I think, the most intriguing, and I think she's the one that pushes the narrative. She's not the main character. I think that's obviously John Boyega, but she's the one who's like driving the motivation for everybody. Like, without her really wanting to solve everything, this movie doesn't happen. And her tenacity is just so fascinating, because she wants to be Nancy Drew. And when she puts on that trench coat and that hat, I was like, I'm in love with this woman.
I was trying to remember where I had seen J. Alphonse Nicholson before, and it's because he was in the White Men Can't Jump movie that came out this year as well.
Yep.
And I enjoyed his performance in this as well. I think Kiefer Sutherland is chewing scenery. Like, I think he's,
I'm evil. Look how evil I am.
Like, what's he doing with that voice? Like, I was like, oh, that's not Kiefer's voice. What's going on here? But I didn't mind it. I thought it played into the movie really well. I thought it was, kind of what the movie needed it to be. What did you guys think of Kiefer?
He kind of felt like he was supposed to be the man, like you watch like Black Dynamite or anything like that. Like he's usually the character that you hear talking, but you never see his face. You see like his hands or him pointing, like you got to stop them from doing this. But I do think like that scene, I really did like that scene because that did play on the whole duality of what is going on. It was like, we are in control, even though you think you're in control. And you go, yeah, that's how it feels. Like, I feel like I'm trying to better myself, but then, I get knocked back to certain levels. And so it felt weird at first because as soon as, you figure out that he's not who you think he is. And then, but I really enjoyed him in there. I don't know if anybody else would feel that comfortable to deliver those lines, except for maybe Leo.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely think it was necessary though.
Yeah.
All right, let's do our last things. Andrew, what is your final thing that you want to say about this movie?
I want to say what's keeping me from loving it, and it's that I think that the movie doesn't wrap up. Like the third act kind of falls a little flat for me. Like it kind of didn't really get the best landing ever, but it's still a fascinating movie up until that point. That's just where the movie lost me.
Yeah, that was going to be my one last thing as well. I think it could have finished stronger. And the movie feels like it's almost a victim of its own momentum. It has so much momentum, like how on a merry-go-round people fly off the edge. Like this movie feels like a really fast merry-go-round where you're having a great time and then you just fly off the edge at the end. Like it doesn't, and that's not necessarily a terrible thing. Like it's not my preference. I like especially these kind of movies to feel a little more solid with the resolution and kind of what they're doing. Having said that, I like the way it kind of has a double ending. I think the secondary ending is almost a negative in that I wanted more. Like I kind of like it wasn't enough. That double ending, but yeah, it was interesting at least. Yeah. Yeah. And I guess the other thing I would mention is this would make a pretty amazing double feature with Sorry to Bother You.
I swear, after I watched this movie, I had to look up to see if it was directed by the same guy or written by the same guy.
Yeah. Dom, what's your one last thing?
I would just say that I know there's people that are like see it the way it looks, maybe a trailer, and I'd be hesitant because they feel like they can't relate. But I promise you that it's very more eye-opening than you think it is.
For anybody with an empathy dial, you can always find your way into a movie, and it doesn't have to be about you to impact you, and that is something we firmly believe here. So I agree. All right, let's move on to the Best Ever Challenge. But before we do, thank you to our SIF Pop members. Appreciate you guys supporting what goes on here. If you're curious about what that looks like, you can go to patreon.com/siftpop. Andrew hosts a pre-show every week for you guys. This week we did kind of mid-year awards. So we talked about our favorites and least favorites from the first half of 2023. You can check that out at patreon.com/siftpop. And thank you for doing so. All right, let's go into the best ever challenge. Best ever haunted house movies. I believe what I said in the email was a building in the movie must be haunted. That is the key. You can probably stretch this to include movies people might not think about. I don't believe I stretched this too far, but we shall see. We'll go number 5 to number 1. If you have it higher than someone else, make sure you let me know so that we can trump that and wait until whoever has it highest gets the first crack at talking about it. So, best ever haunted house movies. Andrew, you're going to start. What's your number 5?
Gonna start off with Beetlejuice.
Nice.
Trump.
Hey!
Trump. Look at that already. Dom, what's your number 5?
Number 5 is Monster House.
Trump. Good start. Good start here, guys. Good start. We're doing well. We're picking good ones.
Yeah.
My number 5 is The Others.
Trump.
Okay. All right. On to our number 4s. Andrew, what is your number 4?
Evil Dead.
Which one?
The original one.
Trump.
Does anybody know the record for the most consecutive first, like off the bat? Like,
I'm pretty sure we did 4 in a row.
Like right off the bat, like started with 4? Okay. All right. Well, then, Dom, it's on you. You could break the record here with a 5th Trump in a row. What is your number 4?
My number 4 is Beetlejuice.
Oh, all right. No record broken. Still 4 is the record.
We tied, though.
Okay, Beetlejuice. Let's talk about it. So you have it the highest, Dom. So tell us a little bit about what you love about Beetlejuice.
This is... I feel like this is a quintessential, like, growing up, you have to watch this movie. You have your poster sad girl, who I feel like my wife is very reminiscent of this person, and that maybe Lydia she stuck in my brain, and I was like, you know what, I'm marrying her. Yeah, I mean, Keaton is great. This is one movie that I feel like you always go back to. I don't want a sequel. I think it should be left alone. But yeah, I mean, it's goofy. It's weird. It's kind of spooky. It's out there. It's one of those ones that it's for the weirdos. And if you're not a weirdo, then you think the ones who love it are a weirdo. I mean, it's a great film. And it's definitely a yearly Halloween watch in my house.
It is official. Dom does not want to see Beetlejuice. So talk about it, Andrew. You had it on your list at number 5.
Well, too bad, Dom, because we're getting Beetlejuice 2 next year. Yeah, we talk about chewing scenery all the time. Michael Keaton is chewing scenery. And this is coming from somebody who's not really a fan of Tim Burton. Like, I like Big Fish, like his movies whenever they're more fantastical, but whenever the movies like Edward Scissorhands or Frankenweenie, any of those, it's just he's not my director. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with him. I mean, everybody just has different tastes. But for some reason, Beetlejuice, man, this is just, there's something about it that's just fun. It's fun. The set design makes sense because it's in the model that's in the attic, you know. So the wackiness really makes sense for this movie.
Yep, I had it in my honorable mentions. I think it's a good choice. Nicely done. All right, let's continue on with my number 4, which also will not get trumped because this is where I have Monster House. So we can talk about that now. Yeah, I really, really like Monster House. This was a animated film. I think I saw it in 3D. I think it was a big 3D film when it came out. And I just remember thinking how clever it was, how fun it was, how interesting it was. And unlike many kids' movies that deal with spooky things, it didn't really pull its punches either. The house is scary. This house is really scary. So yeah, I really enjoy Monster House. Talk about it a little bit, Dom. You had it on your list at number 5.
Yeah. When I see houses now, I can't help but see a face because of this movie. It's just, I believe it came out when I was maybe 19, 18. And yeah, it's one of those ones you don't expect for it to be as kind of spooky as it is. It's animated and you go, oh, this is for kids, but the animation looked great and the voice acting was great. But yeah, it was legitimately a spooky movie and it was very surprising. It's a lot of fun. And it's almost one of the ones where if a kid chooses it, depending on their age, you might go, let's wait a year or two for you to pick this one up. It might get you.
Yeah. All right, that is Monster House. On to our number 3s. Andrew, what do you got?
Number 3, I have The Others.
Nice. Go for it. Talk about it.
I'm not really. I should have said this whenever we were talking about Haunted Mansion. I'm not really a ghost guy. I don't like ghost stories. They do creep me out. I don't. It's weird. I don't believe in ghosts, but they still creep me out. If that makes sense. But yeah, there's just something about The Others. It's just the way it's shot. This it has this Victorian feel to it, even though it's taking place in modern times. It's just a great twist, and yeah, Nicole Kidman she's one of the best actresses we have. And that whole "What are you? No, I am your daughter" scene still creeps me out to this day.
Yeah,
the old lady in the playing with dolls.
The Others is just like a perfect atmosphere movie, in my opinion. This movie from beginning to end just feels like it has such a grasp on its tone and what it wants to be. And the story's interesting and great. Like it really does have a nice story turn that I think makes sense and makes the movie even better. So yeah, I do enjoy The Others quite a bit. Dom, what is your number 3?
The Evil Dead.
Oh, we're getting we're getting through all our trumps now. Nice.
Yeah.
Bruce Campbell was made for this franchise.
But he's so different in that first movie. It's so different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's something about 80s horror, the way that it looked. I mean, like today, like horror is very symmetrical. It's not, for me at least, symmetrical is not scary. But the way that these are done with very practically, those are the ones, like especially the eyeballs when they, those are the things that are burned into my memory. The heavy gore, I mean, this is kind of, for me at least, what set off the cabin in the woods, where you're like, you know what, the Airbnb might need to chill out, make it a house in a neighborhood. We're not going to some secluded cabin, but yeah, I mean your everything about the movie I feel like is something that is classic. Your chainsaws, your shovels, everything about it. And then the Necronomicon. I mean, it's in everything now. Every kind of thing with some kind of evil spirits, I feel like kind of borrows from this franchise.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. It's all turned up to 11. It's just pure horror camp.
Yeah.
Did you want to talk more about it, Andrew? You had it at your number 4?
Yeah. Sam Raimi knows how to do horror comedy, like where it's 90% horror and 10% comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, you laugh at how absurd everything is. There's like nothing's like straight up funny like you do see in Evil Dead 2 or especially Army of Darkness, where he really gets funny with those movies. The first Evil Dead is a straight up horror movie, but you could still laugh at it by just how ridiculously over the top violent it is. So.
Well, there you go. That is Evil Dead at number 3, right? And number 4 for Andrew. So I think that's my number 3 then. I have a movie called What Lies Beneath at number 3. This is... Really? Yeah, this is... Why do you say really? Do you not like this movie?
Let me make sure it's the same one I'm thinking of.
Harrison Ford, Michelle Pfeiffer.
Oh, yeah. I do like this movie.
Yeah, I really... and it wouldn't surprise me if you didn't, because I know it's a very underrated film. A lot of people don't really talk about it. I think it's one of Harrison Ford's most interesting performances. I think it also has a really fun story turn that makes the movie even better. I think it also it's very much Robert Zemeckis channeling Alfred Hitchcock, and he does a pretty good job. He's basically just doing a Hitchcock movie here, and it kind of works. So I really enjoy What Lies Beneath, and that comes in at my number 3. Yep. Let's see, Andrew, your number 2. We're up to our number 2s.
Nice. It's going to get Trump, but Cabin in the Woods.
Nope.
Oh, really? I figured this would be.
Well, let me just say, my analytical brain said this isn't a haunted house movie.
You said a building has to be haunted.
Correct.
It's a big building.
Yes, but is it haunted?
Yeah.
I don't think it is. But that's
apparitions.
Well,
okay, so you're going more along the definition of what is a haunt.
Yeah, my brain couldn't get past that. I'm trying not to give anything away with Cabin in the Woods because it's a great review. But
when did this movie come out? 2003, 4, something like that. We're still trying to hide spoilers.
I think the secondary stuff makes it appear much more corporate than a haunting. Is all that my brain did. So I don't blame you for putting it on the list. But
I almost put it on mine. I was thinking about it. I was like, I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Well, I can't veto Aaron anymore because I already used my veto. For
no vetoing. I'm not vetoing this at all. No, I think this. Right. I totally understand why you picked this.
All right. Well, yeah, Cabin in the Woods, one of my favorite movies. It's so just like actually, believe it or not, just like They Cloned Tyrone. Cabin in the Woods gives me that happy feeling inside of, oh yeah, people can still come up with fresh ideas in Hollywood, you know?
Yeah.
And this Cabin in the Woods is a fresh idea. There is no other movie like it. Nobody can make a movie like it without being called a copycat. Like how many offshoots have we seen of like Friday the 13th or Halloween, you know, all these, they all have their similar, you know, tropes that they all follow, but nobody can do what Cabin in the Woods did. Nobody can.
Yeah, it's really good. It's definitely really good.
Yeah.
Dom, what is your number 2?
I'm sure this is gonna get trumped. The Shining.
Yeah.
Trump. All right. My number 2 is the only one that may stretch the category a little bit, and I totally understand if you think I cheated. But I still think it's a haunted house. I went with Muppets Christmas Carol at number 2.
I swear I was going to put this on my list.
Yeah.
It was going to be number 1.
We've talked before about how great this movie is. It is certainly in competition for the best Muppet movie, if not the best one. So I have a soft place for the very first Muppet movie as possibly the best, but this is so good, and yeah, they're ghosts in that house. But they visit him for a specific reason, but they're still in the house, so I went ahead and went with it.
They're definitely haunting him.
Yes,
but the only reason why I didn't put it on my list, and I want to tell you why, is because I didn't think they were haunting the house; they were haunting him.
Yes, and that's a fair distinction, I think. I think that's a fair distinction.
Yeah.
Anyways, I do enjoy this movie.
You mentioned my all-time favorite Christmas movie and my all-time favorite Muppet movie, so
well,
there's no way I'm going to veto it.
There you go. All right, let's get to our number 1s. Andrew, I think you and I have the same number 1, apparently. So go ahead and say it, and we'll talk about it.
The Shining.
That's right. The Simpsons.
Yeah, The Simpsons. No, I love this movie. Stephen King may not, but I do. It's such a Kubrick film. It's just out there and wild, and it's a timeless horror film. It's art house horror done right. Like those twin girls. If you haven't seen The Shining, it's a very difficult movie to, you know, get people excited for. Like, oh, you want to go see a movie where people in what was it, like a wolf mask, and do you know what I'm talking about? The wolf mask people having sex and stuff while Shelley Duvall's hiding.
Yeah, in the room. Yeah. Yes, yeah.
Let me tell you about this great movie.
I mean, it's so much more than that, though. I mean, that's just a part of the creepy tone, and it is weird. It is definitely weird. But I don't think its weirdness detracts from what it's trying to do. In fact, I think it elevates what it's trying to do. And I'm somebody who hasn't really liked a lot of Kubrick films, but when I watched The Shining, I was really impressed. And I think it's because it has such a clear forward trajectory in the movie. Like, you know where you're going, you know what's, and I don't mean you can predict the ending. I just mean you know where the movie is moving you. And so many times with Kubrick, I feel a little nauseated by trying to figure out where I'm trying to be moved and what's, going on. So, but yeah, I think The Shining does it really, really well. You had it at number 2, Dom. What are some of your thoughts?
Yeah, I think for me, like one of the I mean, this is every horror fan. This is always going to be in their top 5. I mean, and for me, I mean, just the atmosphere was the biggest thing for me. Like the overall tone and the feeling of unease and a lot of just this weird aloof mystery. And then of course you have your iconic scenes that I mean I think I probably use all the time in conversation, which lets you know how my conversations go with some of my friends. But no, yeah, it's great. I mean, it's like you said, timeless film, and one that I watched a lot later than I'm proud to admit, but I'm very glad that I did.
Oh, you're in good company. I just watched it for the first time in the pandemic, so
Okay, me too.
A couple of weeks ago, we had a best ever challenge where it was sequels that had taken place like 10 years after like the original had come out. We didn't mention Doctor Sleep, which was a very good sequel to this movie.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I want people to know that they made a sequel to The Shining, and it is actually a really good movie. It's nowhere, don't expect The Shining good, right, but it is. It's more Stephen King than what here's Dommy. Thanks, Phil. Oh yeah. But no, I think that Doctor Sleep is way more Stephen King than Kubrick.
I know, if nothing else, about The Shining. It has the most famous carpet design in the entire history of film. It's it's so amazing. Some honorable mentions. I have 3 that I could mention. What do you guys have?
Well, I'll tell you what the Gurus chose.
Yeah, what did the Gurus choose?
They chose number 3, Cabin in the Woods. Number 2, Beetlejuice, and number 1, The Shining.
Nice. Dom, did you have any honorable mentions?
I have my number 1.
Oh, we haven't got your number 1 yet.
Oh,
Dom.
That's right.
That's right. Shining was your number 2.
Yeah,
Dom, what is your number 1?
My number 1 is 2001's 13 Ghosts.
Oh,
yeah. This is the Glass House one, right?
Yeah. I know that there's an original that I haven't seen, but this one came at the perfect time in my life as a youngster, feeding into my crazy thoughts. But Tony Shalhoub, I think Shannon Elizabeth, Rod Digger, Matthew Lillard. This fed into my hunger for gore, for everything that makes you feel uncomfortable. The effects are great. The story's cool. And it kind of is one of those ones that lets you feed into that fear of an unknown house and what you may find inside. And if you haven't seen it, it's really fun. And from the beginning, you're like, what the hell am I watching? This is crazy. And then it just gets more wild as it progresses.
Well, there you go. Dom's number 1 film is Thur 13 and Ghosts. At least that's what the title looked like to me.
Thur 13 and then
Thur 13 and Ghosts is the name of the movie. All right, now let's talk honorable mentions. Did you have some honorable mentions, Dom?
Yeah, I had 2 that were technically not hauntings, but they revolved around a house that people were being terrorized, which was House of a Thousand Corpses and The Strangers.
Okay. I have to mention The Conjuring. I think it's a really good movie and certainly deserves a mention in this category. I want to mention a Michael J. Fox movie directed by Peter Jackson in this category called The Frighteners. If you haven't seen The Frighteners, it's really, really good. I would check that out. And then one that might be controversial with some, but is not controversial with me. I believe this is 100% a haunted house movie. Tar. Kate Blanchett in Tar. So there you go. All right. That'll bring us to the buried treasure. What's that one thing in any area of pop culture that you want to make sure people know about? Dom, you're our guest, so you will go last. Andrew, why don't you kick us off?
My buried treasure this week is not for everyone. I'll just get that out in the open right now. It's
Is there
an anime.
anything that's for everyone? Every single person?
True. That's a very, very good point, actually.
Yeah.
But I have an anime for everybody. It's called Record of Ragnarok. It's on Netflix. The basic premise is all the gods of all the different mythologies live in this realm, and they're all looking down on humans, and they're saying it's time for humanity to be wiped off this face of the earth. They're just killing and raping and stealing. They're just horrible creatures. We should never have created them. Then it's decided that the only fair way, or so that humanity has a chance to redeem themselves, is in a Mortal Kombat style tournament where the 13 greatest warriors from America, or from the world's history, fight 13 gods. So you have like Jack the Ripper versus Hercules. You have Zeus versus Adam, like from Adam and Eve, or King Leonidas versus Thor. You know, it's a really cool, it's a really fun premise. It's a lot like the game Smite, if anybody plays Smite like I do. But the reason why I'm saying it's not for everybody is because first it's an anime, and also it's a power-up anime. So if you don't like the Dragon Ball Z, where the entire episode is them powering up while they give a backstory, then you're not going to like it. I will say the first season, I watched the first 2 seasons in 2 days, just because I couldn't stop watching it. But I will say that the animation, they don't have a lot of money for animation. So if you're going into this expecting something like Demon Slayer, you're not gonna get it. But I think the story is really cool.
Cool. That's Record of Ragnarok. That is on Netflix.
Yes.
I'll go next. I saw the Steph Curry documentary on Apple TV Plus called Underrated.
I wanted to know about this.
The Steph Curry doc. I will be upfront with you before I even say anything about this. There was no chance in the world I wasn't going to love this. I'm such a Steph Curry fan. I love how he appears to me as a human being. Again, I have never met the guy. I don't, just from what I've seen, I've really, really enjoyed him. And I love how he's changed the game of basketball. And this documentary really focuses on his growing up in Davidson days. So, like, there is a little bit of NBA in here, but it is not the focus at all. It is really about how he became the basketball player he was, how through his entire life he was fighting this perception of not being big enough, of not being strong enough, to do what he does, and the key points in his basketball career that led to more people being aware of him. I remember that Davidson run. I remember thinking how fun it was to see this adult man who looked like a 12-year-old boy absolutely lighting it up. And then I remember him coming to the NBA, and just one season, just remember him breaking out with the Warriors, and it's just been fun to watch him go. So I also love how this documentary pairs his career advancement with his college degree. He recently finished his college degree as a way to show his kids how important education is, and also to make his mom happy. So really cool stuff. I highly recommend it. It's on Apple TV Plus. If you're not a huge basketball fan, you may not like this as much as I did. I'll let you know that. I am a huge basketball fan, and I am a Steph Curry fan, so of course I was going to love it. But I think if you like basketball and aren't a Steph Curry fan, I think there's still a lot here for you to really enjoy. So yeah,
that's
check it out.
on Apple, correct?
Correct. Apple TV Plus. Dom, what is your buried treasure?
Well, mine is something that I actually haven't seen yet, but is more of a reminder for myself and everyone else. But Twisted Metal is now streaming on Peacock. A buddy of mine, he watched it a couple weeks ago. He said he loved the first couple episodes. I don't think he's finished it, but I believe there's 10 episodes. They're all about 30 minutes long. Peacock dropped all the episodes, so you can binge them all if you want to. But for all of us that grew up playing this game, and how, big fans of Anthony Mackie, I mean, I think this is going to be a fun ride. I think it's supposed to be technically more of like an action comedy.
So they have Will Arnett as Sweet Tooth, right?
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to it. I don't think they did a lot of promotion for it, but it is something that I've been looking forward to. And getting busy, I kind of forgot, but then I reminded myself yesterday, and I was like, "Oh yeah, this is definitely going to be a treat for the weekend, and maybe I can track down my old PlayStation and relive some childhood memories."
There you go.
Yeah.
That is.
I was always Sweet Tooth.
Yeah.
I have no idea what this is. I've never even heard of Twisted Metal. I'm so sheltered.
Just imagine cars with guns shooting each other. That's the game.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Call of Duty with cars.
Call of Duty with cars.
Was it on Nintendo?
Sega and PlayStation.
Okay. See, then there's your answer right there. That is Twisted Metal on Peacock. Underrated is on Apple TV Plus, and Record of Ragnarok is on Netflix. Well, we did it, guys. We did a podcast.
Yeah, it did.
Thanks for being part of it and making it all the way through to the end of the ride. We managed to make it happen, so congratulations. Thanks so much for joining us today for Sif Pop. It is part of the Studio DNA Podcast Network. You can find out more about other shows on the network at studiodna.media or by searching Studio DNA in your podcast player. Huge thanks to Andrew for hanging out again today.
Thank you, buddy.
Big thanks to producer Phil for producing the audio and video show.
Thanks, Phil.
And thanks to Dom Fisher from Geek Vibes for coming and hanging out.
Yeah, buddy.
Dom, where do you want to send people online to check out more of your stuff?
You can go on Geek Vibes Nation for all of my written reviews. I'm going to have some TikTok ones dropping on our Geek Vibes Nation TikTok page. And then if you want to, hit me in the DMs, Instagram at @DomFisher and King_Fish on X, Twitter. I don't know what it's called anymore, but you know what I'm talking about.
Unfortunately, I believe it is called X now. I believe that is the official name.
It's about to be all of our X in a minute.
That's right. Yes. We will all now have an X in that way. Yeah, check out Dom's stuff. It's love having you on the show, Dom. Thank you for coming on again. Much gratitude to our Sif Pop members as well for making Sif Pop a real thing. Support starts at $3 a month. You can check all that out at patreon.com/SifPop. Lots of ways to connect with us. Feel free to leave a comment, a rating, or a review at Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen. You can also email us, feedback@sifpop.com. And finally, if you're having a good time, your movie-loving friends will probably like the show too, so make sure you let them know about it and that listening is much easier than covering up a citywide cloning operation. We will be back next week. I think we'll do Meg 2 and TMNT. So some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and some Sharks next week, I believe, is on the schedule. So we will see you then. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, live chat, for hanging out with us. Let's
Sonic
see.
Screwdriver.
Skaklego says, bye. Have a good night, y'all. Thank you, Skaklego. Andrew, when are you playing Smite on Steam?
Oh, I jump on Steam once a day to play Smite, but the issue is, I don't play for a while. I jump on, play 30 minutes, and then jump off, just because that's my attention span these days.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah. But yeah, if you see me on there, Flick Freaks is my Steam first mite. So yeah, if you see me on there,
my brother's in the chat giving me crap about my hair. So thank you, Drew. Appreciate that. Let's see. JCD.
You do have the Jonathan Taylor Thomas haircut going on right now.
I'll take it.
Rock it all day.
Jay Bourgeois hanging out as well as JCD. Good to see you guys too. Always appreciate you having here for the live stuff. JCD says, quietly sitting here having seen Dr. Sleep, but not The Shining. Hey, you do you.
Like
You do you. All right. Thank you guys. Appreciate you.